So hello everyone, welcome to Dev Skills. Today we will be sharing in 90 minutes, exactly the same time within which one football match you watch, uh, all the design patterns in 90 minutes. So we'll be covering all the design patterns and we will be uh, covering different types of design patterns. So just a minute, let me hand over to Ankit. Great. So I was just testing our live streaming. It's working perfectly, and we are all set to start the session. We are all set to start the session. Let me just turn off my background noise. Awesome. So we are all set, and again, no, we will be having a very much content-packed session, and we will be covering all the design patterns. So if you have good understanding of object-oriented programming, or you have started writing code, and you are wondering about why we need design patterns, then now Ankit will explain. So Ankit, quickly introduce yourself and then share about your experience in design patterns, how you got exposed to it, and what are the benefits you are seeing about design patterns in your organization. And now what you will be sharing today, you can kind of take over from here. Go ahead.
Sure. So hey, thank you, Tarun. So myself, Ankit. I'm a multi-cloud certified. I have done certifications in Google, like GCP, Azure, and AWS. Along with I have done Kubernetes certification. Regarding this design pattern somehow is expanding my learning and expanding my what I can say brain also, so that I design a mini like available partition tolerance and efficient system for everyone who is coming to me for a request. So these design patterns are something serving as a fundamental block.
Awesome, awesome. So uh, yeah, just explain what is design patterns and what are the benefits and what are different types of design patterns, and walk
Sure,
us through all the design patterns one by one.
sure. So coming to design patterns, so we are as of now focusing on low level design. What low level design does is it's majorly focus on classes and objects within the system. And what advantage it is having is the main function is to write clean code. The code should be easily maintainable and the code should be easily understandable, and there should be like flexible and easy to maintain also. This is the main advantage of the low level design, what we will be discussing in next few minutes.
So yeah, just a few weeks back, we have covered multiple high-level design questions. So with Ankit, I have already had a mock interview session about system design of YouTube. We also had a session on system design of Uber.
Uber.
Now we will be covering about low-level design. So after covering very thoroughly about high-level design, and now we will be all set to get into low level design. Now there is slight difference for our viewers. I would like to highlight, in high level design, as you have seen, we focused on functional requirements, non-functional requirements, which were around performance, scalability, reliability, availability, reducing latency, etc. In low level design, we also have same functional requirements, and then we have non-functional requirements. But non-functional requirements in Low level design is about clean code, about modularity of the code, about extensibility of the code. It should be adaptable, flexible, and it should be easily maintainable. So these are some of the functional requirements. And when you design your application, taking care of these, we have to ensure we apply object oriented principles. And that also means we have to apply we have to identify first the objects and classes, then we have to identify the relationships between them, and we have to use the right kind of relationships, which Ankit will be taking us through. And also he will be describing about in object oriented programming how design patterns helps. And now no one by one he will take us through all of them. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sure. So there are like what I guess three categories for it. One is creational, one is structural, and one is behavioral. So coming to creational, let me share my screen. I have some code sample ready. I will explain them only. So let's understand what creational is. So creational is something it controls the object creation, and like it has made various types also. So here if you see, just a second. So as this code says, there is like new car, and like basically this code represents how we are like how we are creating the object. Like our main focus is to create the object. Then we use creational patterns. The
Sure.
next is structural. So what structural does is it defines how different objects can be structured in a way so that a complex problem can be solved in a more flexible way. So I have for structural also, it's very,
Sure.
yeah.
So can you also share about single responsibility principle, what it is?
Solid principles, like I think I will be sharing after this. So yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Because
So
when I was seeing the creational pattern, so the responsibility of creational patterns are about object creations,
yeah, correct.
right?
Yeah. So as we see, like there is a structural pattern as of now. So here, what as I mentioned before, so structural pattern defines how the objects can be structured in a way so that a complex problem can be solved in a more flexible way or in more easy way. So here now we focus how we connect objects so that like how do we connect objects? That's the main thing here. So that a complex problem can be solved in a more flexible way. The next is the last one which I told is behavior. So what behavioral does is, it like basically tells how different objects communicate with each other, how interact with each other. So here the main focus is how different objects communicate and how they behave with each other. That's the main definition for this behavioral design.
Okay.
Yeah. So coming to the first one, what we discussed is creational. So creational has many parts, which is singleton, builder, factory, object pool, prototype. Yeah, these are the only one. Five are the only one. So
Yeah, factory and abstract factory.
okay, factory and abstract factory. Okay. So coming to the yes, I'm saying it.
No, that's all. Perfect.
Yeah. So coming to the first one, if you like just have a like few seconds to go through this code, we have singleton pattern as of now. So just a minute. In my network is lagging. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, your screen is visible and your audio is also visible.
Okay.
Perfect. So it's all good.
So singleton, what it does is it ensures that only one instance of a class exists throughout the application and provides a global access point to it. Suppose if let's say an example on this here we can say database connection db1 is having the values to database connection dot get instance, and similarly db2 is also passing to the same one. Even though we are calling get instance twice, both variable point to the same object. That's why a singleton only uses a single instance, like only a single instance exists.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So basically, if someone says like I need exactly one object, so we need to use singleton pattern. Right?
Yes. So just to explain, in more elaborate manner, there are various scenarios in real world where only one single object is required. So for example, our country has one government. Any country has one government, right? In any application, you have one logger, and if you have multiple, then there could be problems with respect to consistency. So if you have multiple loggers in any applications, or multiple database connections, in this example Ankit is showing that okay, how you can limit the instantiation of connection to one, database connection to one, because if you have multiple connections, if there are multiple clients, then there will be resource wastage. So singleton pattern is a very important pattern. It's very powerful pattern. It ensures only one connection is established, or there is only one instance of an object. So it is used in various scenarios, which are like logger or connection pool, or in caching, and also in configuration. So as a cloud engineer, he would be using this very frequently, and also you would be also seeing it in multiple places in your code or in any framework you use.
Sure. Sure. Thank you, Tarun, for teaching me. So the next is builder. So what builder does is, so if you clearly, okay, I think I'm in the factory. Yeah. So let me zoom
Sure.
out because the code will be full. Is the font correct or little?
Yeah, you can increase a little bit. Awesome.
So here, if you see, there is, yeah. So here, what builder is like builder pattern is used like when we like instead of use constructor, we use to build the object one step at a time. That is the main thing. So need to create a complex object step by step, then we need to use a builder.
Great. So yeah.
Suppose I'm using set age, set name. This is something which I'm using like instead of a use constructor, I'm using we are building one object at a time.
So builder pattern is also very common in any object. When you have to create a complex object, you have to pass multiple times different attributes or properties. So for object instantiation here, example Ankit has shown of a creation of a user, in which you have to pass on various fields, which will include name, age, and many other fields depending on your application. So this is a very simplified example. So in this case, you will have a big constructor definition, and instantiation of an object becomes a problem. Because if you have multiple parameters, there are chances of errors, because you have to put the parameters in the right sequence. So this pattern simplifies object creation. It provides users or client developers a very easy to use interface, so that they can construct the object as per their need. Great. So looks like Ankit is little bit offline. His connection is a little bit shaky at the moment because of the bad weather conditions here in Hyderabad. So just I'm waiting. But in the meantime, no, I will share. Great. So yeah, Ankit, you are back.
Yeah, I think there's some network connectivity.
Okay. So
Yeah, because there was a like huge rain yesterday in Hyderabad. So.
yes. Great. So yeah, I just spoke in the meantime about complex object creation and how builder pattern simplifies object creation.
Sure. So the next one is, I'm audible now?
Yes, absolutely.
So the next one is factory pattern. So what factory patterns define is if we need to create object without exposing the creation logic, then we need to use factory pattern. Suppose if I highlight here, so if I'm like here, I'm using public static vehicle dot get vehicle and string type and vehicle type equals to call. So what here I'm using is I am creating object without exposing the creation logic. Suppose like let's check another thing. The client asks for an object. The factory pattern decides which objects to be. So that is the crunch of this definition for this factory part.
Great. So just to add further here on the factory pattern we use very commonly in various user interfaces, and
It's like for
ye-
driver creation or any like that sounds.
absolutely, absolutely.
So the next one is adapter, which basically like is used when we need two incompatible classes to work together. Then we focus on adapter. So suppose here I am saying, like if you see here I'm using printer adapter, which is it's a new class and it's using old printer also. So here if I highlight this, so adapter acts like a translator between two incompatible interfaces. That's the main definition for the adapter.
Awesome. So yeah, adapter pattern is a structural pattern. So the previous patterns which we covered, which were singleton, which were a builder
That was
and
creation, yeah.
factory patterns, they were the creational pattern, and this is a structural pattern. That means it helps in defining the structure of the object.
Correct.
And in adapter, we convert one kind of interface to the other kind of interface. So this pattern is very commonly used in protocol translation.
Correct. So the next one is decorator, which is also like as Karan mentioned, it's a type of structural only. So here we need to add functionality without modifying the existing one. So let's make the session more interactive on this point. We generally purchase a car from the showroom or anything, but we buy accessories, we buy seat covers, or we buy like wheel alloys and everything. So that is how we decorate our like car. So here the similar example, if we say here in this one, if you can have a like read on this like for a few seconds, here we are wrapping the original object and adding new behavior. Suppose if you see like milk decorator is there and new basic coffee. So and apart like there is a milk and we are adding coffee in it to make some like hot coffee or cold coffee. So we are decorating that. So there the decorator pattern is being used. It's a structural pattern only.
Awesome. Great. I'm just checking with the audience because many viewers are watching us. And for all our viewers, please feel free to share your queries. Or if you have any comments or any other further inputs, feel free to share in the chat. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can ask like if any query is there or not. Like I can wait for 2 minutes. Someone is having query.
Yes.
I think we can ask that in the last also.
Yes, absolutely.
So the next is proxy pattern. It is also a structural pattern. Like we discussed, structural pattern define how different objects and classes can be combined together so that like problem can be solved in a more flexible way. So when we need controlled access to object, we use proxy. Suppose here we are using proxy internet. So the proxy sits in front of a real object and controls the access. Like we can use network proxy or any proxy like firewall or anything so that it is being what I can say. The proxy sits in front of the real object and it controls the access so that there is no unauthorized access, there is no DDoS attack or any of the like risk is in your application.
Great.
Can you move to the next one?
Yes, yes. So yeah,
So
proxy pattern, one more input I will add, is very commonly used in testing. So
correct, correct.
proxy, mock objects, there are dummy objects. So there are various concepts about the testing, and proxy is commonly used not only in connectivity related low level coding, but as well as in testing.
Yeah. So next is composite. Composite is also a structural pattern only. So we need to create individual object and groups of the object in the same way. So there we use composite. Like suppose a manager can contain employee, but both are treated as employee only. Like a manager contains an employee, but both are treated as employees. So here, if you see, so here a manager is there, a manager class is there, which is like adding, like it's adding new developer, new tester, or new anything. But both of them serve as the employees to the manager only.
Correct.
Yeah. So the next is the bridge one. Bridge is also structural pattern only. So here, if you see, like you can go through the code. Like I can give 10 seconds or like more than of it also. So here we need abstraction and implementation to evolve independently. Basically, it means like like if you see here, I'm using a class remote. So the remote does not care whether it's controlling a TV or radio. Here I'm giving that like implementation to evolve like independently. Like suppose I have defined a class remote. I can use it for TV. I can use it for my like AC also, or like any of the electronics object which is compatible. Like as of the fans are also operating through remote. So here we use bridge pattern because here the remote does not care like for like what it's controlling, as we discussed before. Okay. So the next is flywheel. That is also a what I can say structural pattern only. So here we need to reduce the memory usage by sharing object because that is the most important thing. We need to make our system compatible. There should not be high memory consumption. So here we use like flywheel. Suppose if I say yeah. So if we go through this code, like if we like check the get character, so instead of creating duplicate object, we are using the existing ones only so that we save the memory. Anything you want to add on?
Sure.
Yeah.
So flyweight pattern is used. So if you want resource constraints, as in many scenarios where you have like IoT or embedded systems. But yes, you can add additional functionality or enhance the existing object on the fly at the runtime. So you start with the lightweight object, but then yes, if you want to kind of get more functionality, complexity into the existing implementation, you can get that. So this is all about flyweight pattern. So as you see in this example, we have a character class, then you have a character factory, and we are adding more parameters to it on the fly. So we are converting it into hash map and additional capabilities are added to it where in this particular case symbol.
So yeah, yeah. If anyone is having any query, feel free to comment on the chat section. And meanwhile, we will be moving to the next part of the section. We will be discussing about a behavioral ones, also state strategy, observer, template, and visitor. So just give me a minute. Let me reshare my screen. Just stopping it for a minute. Meanwhile, if anyone is having any query, feel free to like comment over the chat.
Yes.
I think the audience will be active once we share the like main surprise after this discussion.
Sure, absolutely. So
Yeah.
yeah, we have a very great resource for all of you, and we'll be sharing it, which will help you understand all the design patterns. So I'm just waiting for you to kind of cover all the
Yeah.
behavior
I'm
patterns,
almost
and
I'm almost done.
then yes, if our audience is feeling like okay, it's very fast or they want more details, then I will share an awesome resource with all of you, with which you can get into details. So that particular resource captures all the expertise of Ankit and many other experts, and it's content. It is built from content which is well researched. So I will share that tool which will help you to kind of explore all these design patterns and have all of them at your fingertips all the time. So be with us.
Yeah. So the next one is state, which is behavioral design pattern. So let me revise that, or let me reiterate that behavioral design pattern again. So what behavior design pattern state that it focus on different objects communicate or interact with each other. Like as the word suggests, behavior, like how we humans interact with each other. So behavioral design pattern states that how different objects communicate or interact with each other. So if you see this code, let me zoom out because this is quite just a minute. Let me zoom out because this is small. This is visible in screen if visible. Just a second.
Sure. So yeah, by the time Ankit is zooming out, I have shared in the chat one interesting resource for all of you. This is list of all the LLD problems. So just have a look into LLD problems, and while solving any of the LLD problems, keep in mind what all patterns will be useful or you can apply. So when you are given an LLD problem, it could be a problem like design tic-tac-toe, design chess, or design elevator, design parking lot, and there are more than 20 commonly asked LLD problems. Then to solve these LLD problems, these concepts which Ankit is describing right now will be very useful. You have to recall what are the various patterns, and you have to communicate to the interviewer that these patterns can be applicable in different scenarios. And if you can share these patterns during the LLD, then definitely you get very good feedback in the interview. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I zoomed out the code. So let me review. So state pattern is basically used when we need an object to behave differently based on its current state. So there we use state pattern. So same or like object order, different behavior because its state has changed. If you can go like clearly to this, there is same order object but different behavior because its state is changing into multiple times over this code. So there we use that state.
Awesome.
So the next one, let me the observer pattern. So observer pattern is something like we need to notify multiple users when something changes. Suppose let's take an example of weather application. Weather application notifies, like I'm taking in a real world example also. Weather application notifies like there will be change in weather or we get a notification from government also. So there we use the observer pattern. So yeah, where we need to notify multiple users when something changes. So the next one is yeah, template pattern. So template, we need a fixed workflow with customizable steps. So if you see here, if yeah, let me zoom, let me drop down this one. So the workflow is fixed, like it will be like it is boolean add in like ingredients are only the ingredients step thing. So like basically if I repeat it again, we need a fixed workflow with customizable steps. There we use a template. The next most important thing I will be discussing about is like you might have also seen when we use like book my show or anything, there is like the seats are being reserved for a particular second, but we when we refresh the page after some time, it gets like different like seats we are able to show something the same seat also. So we are this like here the main patterns comes is concurrency. So we are a concurrency can be of also two types. Like we are going like more deep into the topic. I'm just adding some extra notes over that. So concurrency can be of two types where it will be pessimistic and optimistic. So if like pessimistic is something where transition logs the data before reading or updating it, and it makes sure the log is not like the data is still not released until the log is not released. So basically, what happens is until or unless I like suppose me and you are booking that book my show, until or unless I put this application or until I release the log, you won't be able to see that seat again. what on like it is something which is not recommended as per the industry standards also, because if there are million of users also, that won't be scaling the application, or that will result in negative views of their application also. So the other thing is like what they have discovered is optimistic. So optimistic, what it done is it does not log a data during a read or update, but it makes sure the data has not been validated by the other transaction. So there is some algorithm running at the backend which uses dynamic jobs or like dynamic patterns which keeps a track on it. So Book My Show uses optimistic. I was recently discovering this, so I came to this extra point. Yeah,
Okay. So the locking mechanism you mean is optimistic mechanism.
optimistic in Book My Show. Because this is what I heard. Like I also read many other LinkedIn posts. This is the most asked interview question also, optimistic and pessimistic.
Yes.
And the other thing what we will be discussing is, let me stop sharing the screen because now we'll be having an interactive session because the code part is almost done. So we will be discussing about the solid principles. Like everyone who is like reading this LLD or like seeing this solid principle is something which everyone should have like on like tip of your tongue. Like what solid principles define and like what is the use of solid principle. So coming to solid, SOLID, S means single responsibility. O means open close principle, L means response substitution principle, I means interface application, D means dependency inversion principle. The same like solid principles are a part of LND only. The same advantage it will have if someone asks you like what is the advantage or like why we need solid principles. The same what we like me and Tarun discussed in the beginning. Like it helps us to write clean code, avoid duplication, easy to maintain, easy to understand, and flexible software. That is the main use what we are discovering LLD and why we use LLD in our design part. So coming to the first one, which is single responsibility with principle, a class like what is said is a class should have only one reason to change. Meaning it should have only one, like it should have only one and only one job or responsibility. The other is open close principle. Like open close principle suggests that a class should be open for extension but closed for modification. Like suppose means that new functionality can be added through inheritance rather than modifying the existing one. Like if like that is not recommended also. If something is running in production, you need not to modify the existing one, rather than you should inherit the new ones. And existing code is already tested and deployed, and what adding more modification would introduce additional recalls response on this one.
Yes. Sure.
So the other is list cost substitution principle. So object, like what it says is object of a superclass should be replaceable with objects of a like subclass without breaking its application. Like what solid principles as of like overall crunch is, there should not be any breaking in the application, rather than you should modify the application so that it should be easy to maintain, flexible, and easy to test also. That's what the main crunch is, and that's what each and every letter of the solid principle defines. The other is interface segregation. So it defines like interface should be such that the client should not implement unnecessary function they do not need. So it should be segregated and should be easy to understand also. The next is dependency inversion principle. So it like states that high level component should not depend on low level component, rather than it should depend on a like abstraction.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's what we wanted to discuss. Yeah, Tarun, if you want any point, I have almost done what.
Sure. Sure. Awesome.
Because in if you see our previous videos also about DevSkills, we have already discussed the HLD of web crawler. Web crawler was a quite interesting one where we discussed about bloom filters, avoid duplication. So once you study these design pattern, then you see our videos, that will be very helpful. We have discussed about Uber and YouTube also. So that is the most trending one. So what we will be like in next few weeks, we'll be discussing about Twitter, and we will be discussing about what is hot partition, what is sharding, and these are the most important things. Yeah. So what we recommend is you should watch our videos this first and then go to the next and follow steps on this.
Sure. So yeah, for people who are preparing for interviews, or they want to kind of do better as a programmer, so here is the roadmap. So very important is nowadays people learn Python, but they don't cover the object-oriented principles. So in low level design, object oriented principles very important. For no, the data structures algorithm, you don't need object oriented principle. But in low level design interviews, you need to be a master of object oriented design. Now, what does it mean and how you should approach? So, if you are beginning, first step is learn about what are objects, what are classes, and what makes any language an object oriented language. So, here there are various uh, characteristics which makes an object language object oriented. First is it should support classes and objects. Second is it should support inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation. So these are various object oriented functionalities or features. This you should master. Now, as Ankit said, abstraction is very important. Modeling any real world scenario into software application requires abstraction, and the design patterns and solid principles, these are ways of achieving abstractions. So in software design or design patterns, what we do is we abstract the implementation detail and expose a simplified interface to the outer world. So most of our design patterns, for example, creational patterns like singleton pattern, they expose very easily to global audience the interface to connect to the object, or one instance in singleton pattern. But in case of builder pattern, it provides the interface for connecting to constructor and creating a complex object in a simplified manner. And same way, no, we have other patterns as well, which were factory patterns, in which you can kind of instantiate factories and create objects, different kinds of objects, and same kinds of objects in both scenario, factory pattern and abstract factory pattern. In factory pattern, you create objects, and in case of abstract factory pattern, you create family or hierarchy of objects. Then we also discussed about so probably, yeah, we may also discuss prototype patterns, and there are various other patterns as well. But yes, Ankit covered the structural patterns also very well. He shared about the adapter pattern. He talked about composition or composite pattern is another part pattern for structuring an object. So an object could be structured in various ways, and the complexity of the structure of object is again abstracted in case of the structural design patterns. And when you use these terminologies, you also enable very easy communication in the team, because when Ankit says I'm implementing decorator pattern, or I'm implementing a facade, very in less word, he communicates to the team that what he is doing, because these patterns are industry best practices. They are the proven solution to existing commonly occurring problems. So their usage enables easy communication, and also it ensures that the design is for maintainability, extensibility, reusability, and understandability. So we have covered facade and flywheel pattern. We've also covered about flyweight pattern. Flyweight pattern, as we discussed that, okay, we can share a fine-grained object, and we can support large number of fine-grained objects. For example, Ankit showed that he was creating a character, and then he enhanced it to have a character and symbol mapping. So here you would be wondering, what is the constraint? So here user wants to create millions of characters or thousands of characters, and if we create all the characters with symbols at once, then there will be a lot of memory required. So when you're working on some mobile device or on some IoT embedded devices, then it is beneficial. You start with a smaller footprint object, and then on the runtime, as and when needed, you can add more structure to the object. So this is all about the flyweight pattern. Then
We discussed about congruency also. That is like
yes,
the most important like process or the mechanism everyone needs to know.
correct. So whenever we are doing object-oriented programming and programming for building at scale, concurrency is very important concept. So now, there are 22 patterns. So it is very difficult for anyone to discuss them in detail in a brief session like this. But we have covered the most frequently used patterns and their most important characteristics in this particular session. But now I will also be sharing a tool which can make you master all these design patterns, because it happens to anyone, they may master. So there are very popular books. So one of the popular book for design pattern is Gang of Four. The book is called Gang of Four. So that is the classic book, and it is the book which is written by the creators of all these patterns. But yes, for developers, sometimes it is difficult to read because there are no language specific examples. They talk in terms of pseudocode, and the discussion is a PhD level discussion in that particular book, and where the content is also talking about various high level object oriented concepts. But there is again a book which is a very simplified version. So that is Head First Design Patterns. So that's also I would recommend. They have used very simple example of ducks and toy duck and living duck which can fly, and they have explained it in a very interactive, playful manner in the entire book. So that is good book. And then I have a resource. So I will be just sharing my screen in a minute, which I have created myself, and this is called Software Design Patterns Explorer. So I wish I had a tool where I can kind of quickly revise or quickly recall all the software patterns. So we have around 22 design patterns, 22 or 23 design patterns, and sometimes we forget about uh, what design patterns is used for that. So if you are reviewing the code, or if you are designing application, you can start by looking into this tool. So this tool, when you use it, the way to use is you can search about any pattern. Say for example, if you want to search about some pattern like prototype, you can just type in few words and you can see the design pattern with a brief description. Each of the design pattern has a icon also, which is easy for recognizing it, and you can search about any pattern here. And then when you click on the pattern, you get into the details of this particular pattern. So you see here there is a description of the pattern. So this is basically the definition of the pattern, and then some of the important aspects of the pattern is also listed here. For example, what is the purpose of the pattern or the intent of the pattern, what problem this particular pattern is solving, and then how does this pattern solves the problem. So if I take an example of adapter pattern here, we have convert the interface of a class into another interface. So this is what Ankit explained. So this definition is put here in a line here just below the name of the pattern. And then you also see the category of the pattern. So for example here you see this pill is structural, saying is structural. So it's like tagged, this pattern is tagged as a structural pattern. And then you see the intent, which is convert interface to another kind of interface. And you can see what is the problem, what are the benefits. So you can reuse an existing class without changing the interface, or when you can't change the interface. Then we have a class diagram. Class diagram is also very important, because when you are explaining a pattern to an interviewer, then you may use a class diagram here. And then you have code examples in any of the popular languages. For example, you have the code example in Java, you have in Python. When I say Python, this is object-oriented Python, where we have examples in the form of classes. So same example is described in different programming languages: Java, Python, C#, TypeScript, and Go. And then we have here the use cases for the pattern. Like you have what are the frameworks or SDKs which are using these patterns, any no integration scenarios which already implements this pattern. For example, here is the use case which is legacy integration. Then we have format conversion. So there are various use cases listed, and there are some tips or drawbacks of the pattern also is also shared here. So here, for example, we should keep the adapters thin, and pure translational code should be here. And putting so just a minute, let me try to show you where is the tip, because I see the some of the area is cutting up in this particular screen. So let me make it easier for you to read this. Yes, if you want all these details around the pattern, software patterns, then definitely I can share you the URL of this tool for you. So do like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone. And just put the comment in the comment design patterns in the comment to this video, and then I will be sharing you the link to this tool, which is for exploring different design patterns. So with the help of this tool, you can in few days become very much familiar with all the design patterns and about all the details of the design pattern. So yes, looks like my screen also got frozen. So I might have to.
There is network issue in Hyderabad today, and my
Yes. But no worries. These tools are better explored by trying it out by ourselves. So, did you like the tool, Ankit?
Yeah, excellent tool. Yeah, that's what.
Yes, awesome. So yes, I was wishing to have this tool since many days, and then finally got some time to kind of create this tool as a web application, where I have kind of created notes, and we'll be sharing more about design patterns in coming days. So keep following us. We write blogs, we discuss the concepts through articles, and we share them through various social medias. And we have will be sharing links to our social media channels in the description, and as well as in the pinned comments. Great. So that's all. If let me check if there is any questions from the audience. And I would like people who like the tool to also like our video and start commenting in this particular video. So this will increase our reach as well, and I can share this tool to more people. And definitely I'll DM you the link to the tool so that you can try it out and learn all the design patterns very easily. So let me see what is our audience saying at the moment. Fine. So I don't have any questions right now with the audience. So if no more questions and if nothing more, then we can close this session.
Sure. Thank you, Tarun. Thank you. Thank you all.
So thank you everyone. Have a nice day ahead. See you